Hello my beautiful people, welcome to the next in the All About the Signs series with me, Raphael from Reydiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, share and hit that subscribe button. If you are already a continued subby, thank you so much for all of your support. It truly means the world. With that said, let's go into it, right? We're here today to talk about Leo. It's all about Leo. And when isn't it all about Leo? Let's be honest. And before any of you start, I am a Leo rising, so yeah. Right, so Leo. Before we start, as always, I want to go forward, and the reason I've put a lot of the attributes down like this, whether you've seen any of the other videos or not, I've said it in all of them and I will continue to say it throughout the entire series. We are all self-deprecating enough. We all punish ourselves and beat ourselves up, as much as we possibly can for some reason. So I have put the unconscious aspects or attributes of each sign down as the lessons. So your blessings are things that come easily, that come innately, that are ingrained, that have the highest potential to them. The lessons are things that if you can transcend, they are experiences that you won't have and that you won't perpetuate. And I've put them as lessons so that you can gather the information from it and understand that it really is something you can transcend, and there isn't necessarily anything bad about you. I don't ever want to be one of these people that says you are bad, these are things about you that are wrong. I tell you that they're lessons because it then suggests that you can overcome these. And ultimately, I always want to say mine is just one opinion in 7 billion, right? I haven't got the most advanced astrological knowledge, but what I do have is a unique perspective, and that's what I'm trying to deliver in these videos. It's supposed to be fun, informative, and ultimately it's supposed to help people on the path of understanding either themselves, a loved one, even a crush, even more so than they currently do. So with that said, let's talk about Leo. So Leo is the fixed fire sign. It represents the fixed fire. So as I've talked about before, when you get a fixed sign, you're talking about a sign that is in the middle of a season, right? It's the fixed nature of the element and also the fixed nature of the season itself. It's where the season reaches its peak, where it's at its point of sustenance, let's say. Leo is ruled by the sun. The sun rules Leo, the biggest, brightest part in our chart. But also when you think about the sun, what's it about? It's about illuminating something, right? Bringing a spotlight onto something or shining consciousness onto it. The glyph for the sun is this here. It's a circle with a dot in the middle to represent the identity, the true self at the core of our being, or as Leo rules, the heart of our being. It also rules the spine or the back. And then finally, the glyph that represents Leo is literally that. It's like almost like a head, and then it's like the tail, right? But it kind of, when you think about the mane. So as many of you will probably have noticed, I no longer have that leonine attribute. But when I was younger, I could tell you I used to have the wildest hair. It was long, it was, plaited one minute, twisted another. I was always doing something crazy with my hair for years, which is probably why it all, decided to take a runner. But all that said, when we're talking about fixed fire, we're talking about the nature. So a fixed sign tends to be quite rigid. It tends to be quite stuck. So even though we're talking about fire, we're talking about the predictable part of fire. We're talking about the part of, the part of the zodiac that is fixed in its nature. And this is why when you talk about the fixed signs, they tend to be quite stubborn. They tend to, stick in or dig in for something. So this sign obviously is Leo is all about August. So let's delve into some of the stuff about Leo. So the blessings of Leo. What you're looking at when you talk about the blessings are the positive, or there's that dualism again. What you're looking at is the best qualities. It's about the highest potentials that come easy, that are ingrained or inborn into the sign. So when we talk about destined, all Leos in some way, shape or form have a sense or a feeling or a touch of destiny, as I call it. You know, I've heard it said that you know, if you want to look at the story of a Leo, you have to look at the ones that need to prove themselves, the ones that need to make something of themselves, or have you know, they come from humble beginnings but then go on to become, you know, a great leader, or you know, somebody that's really famous or well known. And you know, not everybody is going to have that experience, but there is always a feeling about them that they're here to do something. They've come to earth, they've come to this incarnation in order to fulfill some purpose, some mission, some goal. And it's usually their heart or their creativity, their innate sense that something is pulling me or pushing me towards a specific you know, height of understanding or recognition. Leo loves and craves and needs to be recognized for its efforts. It's part of, you know, what's wrought into them. So regal and proud, you know, and destined as well. My astrology teacher said, if you want to look at the life of a Leo, you need to watch your Harry Potters and your Luke Skywalker, the Star Wars. It's, you know, that underdog that then goes on to become, you know, the big, brave, bold hero. So destiny, and I got that the saying, I heard it in Pirates of the Caribbean, and it just really stuck with me. A touch of destiny. That's what you're talking about when you're thinking about Leos being destined. So regal and proud. When we talk about regal, Leo is considered the king, right? It's the king of the jungle. Leo is the lion, the king of the jungle, or the, you know, the king, queen, whatever of the jungle. And when we talk about regal, there is almost like even the Leos that are, because you get two types of Leos as well, just like you get two types of everybody really. You get Leos that are loud and gregarious and, you know, they want to be on stage and be noticed, and then you get the sort of more reserved Leos that are a little bit more quiet, and those Leos, as well as the other type, they exude this kind of regal quality, and you know, it's like a quiet confidence, a quiet dignity, where they know something about themselves. It's like, and that's why when people talk about, oh, Leos and confidence, and yes, it's a trait that they have, but even the quiet Leos have that confidence, but it comes through in that sort of quiet, mysterious, yeah, I know I'm the shit, you know, but it's more regal, it's more reserved, and that's where that regal sort of nature comes from. And proud as well, one of the blessing, you know, I've put proud on there twice as a blessing and a lesson, because when you have pride in what you do, in what you stand for, you tend to want to do the best and come from the same place as Leo, the heart space, right? You put your heart into things, and it's about something that you're passionate about or that you care about. Passionate, very passionate creatures, and from that passion comes all kinds of creativity. This is why you see a lot of people with a heavy Leo influence will go into the arts, into creativity, whether it's music, dance, drama, actors. You see a lot of actors with Leo, you see a lot of musicians with Leo, you know, with a strong prominent Leo in their chart somewhere. And that passionate nature comes from the, I've got something to prove, I've got something to say, I have that confidence to deliver a message, to deliver a speech. Leos and the War and Peace speech, you know, the king in the old days used to be there at the head of the army giving the troops a pep talk, saying, we can do this, we're gonna do this, I'm here with you. You know, leading by example is another thing that you see as a real blessing for Leo people. You know, independent, fiercely independent, you know, right at the front, like, you know, see me, I will stand alone if I have to, and I will lead people to what they need to be or where they need to be, and I will do so by leading them there, by walking the path ahead of them. You know, I absolutely love that trait as well. So yeah, independent, like happy to be free thinking, but will, you know, in that same sort of way of wanting to be a pioneer, Leos tend to want the recognition for it as well. Courageous, you see Leos being very brave, very often standing up against, especially if they see something that they feel is morally unacceptable, or, if they see that underdog, a Leo's one of the first people that will be in there, standing guard, or doing the bit, walking paths that people aren't necessarily used to walking, being courageous enough to stand their ground, to hold their own, whether it's in speech, whether it's in a fight, whatever you want to call it. They will stand tough. Spontaneous, and I've put there in the brackets, in the known. So they are a fire sign. Fire itself is spontaneous, right? But the sun has a constancy about it. Eventually it will burn out. We all know that. Everything will come to an end at some point, as is the way of all organic life, right? But in terms of spontaneity, there is a part of them, they can go from really serious to having, laughs and jokes and being a complete 5-year-old, an adult 5-year-old, that is, in a heartbeat. So there's that spontaneity, like, they've got that sense of loving a bit of adventure or anything different that will, maybe even is a bit daring or will take them out of their comfort zone, but within the known. Right, and that's why I've put this here on both sides as well, because it's kind of like there's that need for familiarity that comes from the fixed nature, from what is comfortable. The lion knows everything in their own domain. Outside of that, they don't really know, but it's kind of like, if I don't rule it, I probably don't need to be involved with it. And you see that in The Lion King, when he says that everything that the sun touches on the land, you never go beyond that, because that's not our territory. So spontaneous, but within the known sector. Fun and kind and a big kid. Very kind. One of the things that a lot of people don't necessarily associate with Leo is they're very generous, very giving, and very giving of themselves, and so therefore very kind. They have a real sort of, big-hearted, big kid nature about them. So they're lots of fun, and like I said, they really connect with, and Leo rules children as well. So they really, you can find if you've got a Leo uncle or aunt, they would have been the person that had you roaring with laughter and, playing all kinds of silly, childish games and whatnot. Life and soul of the party. Even the quiet ones have a really sort of wickedly funny sense of humour. Even the more reserved or regal Leos have a really good sense of humour. Spiritual as well. And even if it's not necessarily overtly spiritual, all Leos, because Leo's a cat, right? Leo is a lion. A lion is basically just a big cat. Cats are very spiritual and sensual beings. When you see the way that they walk, they've got, really fine-tuned, intuitive sort of senses. So spiritual, and that whole thing about destiny and knowing that there's something, but I might not necessarily be able to put my finger on it, that comes from that spiritual nature. Mentor leadership, and Leo loves to teach. This is one of the reasons that anybody that's a teacher or a tutor or a mentor that happens to be a Leo, they want you to succeed. They love to see people grow and turn into something, partially because a part of them's like, I taught them everything they know. But why not get some recognition for somebody that you've helped, but they always want to see you succeed. They want to teach you things. They want to, grow you in some way. And so when they have, Leos make excellent parents, especially fathers, and in difference as well. If Cancer represents the mother, Leo represents the father, or the paternal aspect. But mentor leadership, I talked about leaders, they'll be at the forefront. They will be there with you. It's not do as I say, it's, do as I do. Do it with me. I'll be there with you. I'll roll my sleeves up and I will get in the mud with you, and we will make this happen together. And then creative, I talked about that. Music, arts, drama. Leo's ruled by the 5th house as well, which is where you'll find all of those things. As well, in terms of the spontaneity, anything that's a little bit of a gamble, comfortable. As long as the risk isn't too great to, you know, what it is that I've amassed or built up, you'll find them, you know, they like games of chance and luck and all of that sort of stuff. And luck as well is another thing that's worth mentioning. They're very, very lucky. You'll often hear a lot of Leo people say, you know, I've had a few near misses or scrapes. They tend to kind of come out of things, you know, fairly intact. So now that we've talked about all of your blessings, what are your lessons? What are the things that you might need to work through on, to transcend, to push past, to work on? So entitled, you know, this comes from this proud sort of regal nature. It's kind of like, give me, I should have, I deserve, I demand. You know, and that entitled sort of nature of just expecting, it's kind of like an expectation. And it's good to expect that good things will find you or happen for you. But sometimes if it goes too far, it turns into that sort of like, oh, they're a bit entitled, or somebody thinks a bit much of themselves. And so therefore, you know, if it runs away with itself, that's the experience that it can generate. Selfish. For that same reason, you know, and very often the selfishness comes in response to a life that's been fraught with difficulty. Leos tend to have a life of challenge, whether it's in the younger years, whether it's, you know, in their career, in their studies, or in some way, shape or form. Leo always has to, there's always a challenge for them to overcome. And for that reason, they tend to have, you know, in the unconscious, or the you know, unknown recesses of self, there's quite a selfish sort of nature underneath that. Grabby, give me, mine, I want, you know, this belongs to me. If I'm the king, then I should have this before anybody else gets a taste. You know, there's that grabby, like if I like it and I want it, I'm gonna have it. So like almost like a grabby or snatching sort of nature. And there's, you know, again, this comes from the entitled sort of part of it. Hogs the limelight. So I already talked about this. I touched on this with the mentor and the leadership. You know, there's like kind of like this, well, you know, I'll bring the conversation back to me. And and I laugh because I recognize all of this stuff within myself. I'm a Leo rising and I recognize all of this, even the lessons. There have been times where I've had all of these or displayed all of these. You know, sometimes some of them simultaneously. I'm not exempt from it, and it is stuff that I have, you know, done my best to work on and to phase out. So hogs the limelight, you know, because they have that feeling of, you know, I should lead by example. If it goes unchecked, or, you know, especially in a mentor and leadership sort of position, it's kind of like the, you know, they, you know, I want everyone to know what part I had to play in this. And so therefore sometimes, you know, it can kind of be above and beyond. Childish, just as much as they can be that fun big kid, is the same way they can be quite sort of like, well, you know, I'm going to stamp my feet, and if I don't get what I want, and I cringe when I look back at some of my behaviour in my 20s, because I'm like, oh, you know, awkward. So yeah, childish, you know, this kind of like, well, if I can't get what I want, then I'm going to behave in a certain way. Arrogant. Now, it's been said that arrogance is a mark of intelligence, which I kind of believe to a point. But when I say arrogant, it's very often like, well, I could have done that better, or, you know, and if it goes unchecked, it turns into that experience of kind of thinking that you're above or beyond other people, when really we're all here together and we all have something unique to offer the world. We all have something, you know, we all have something bright and brilliant within us to share with the world. So just kind of, you know, finding a way to let go of that arrogance. Stubborn, I already talked about this. This comes from the fixed nature and the fact that, you know, if you're a lion, there's not really many arguments with you in the jungle, is it? Most people are just like, well, that's the king, so I'm gonna let it go. You know, a stubborn nature, unyielding at certain points, and find a way to work past that, because being stubborn is a good thing. But, you know, especially when it comes to defending your viewpoint, which, or defending yourself, or standing up for yourself, or even for an underdog, you know, it's a part of you that you should keep, but don't let it become unconscious, because then it runs away with itself and becomes something completely different. Stay in what's known, even when wrong. I myself included, there have been, you see I'm doing it, look, I know all of you are sitting there like, ooh, there you go. You know, but I'm giving you examples so that because I have experience of this stuff, I'm trying to give pertinent examples. So to stay in what's known even when it's wrong. Relationships, a Leo has a tendency to stay in a relationship even when they know it's wrong for them. Even if they know it's destructive or no good for them, they will flog a dead horse. And a part of that comes back to this arrogance of, well, I can make it work, I can change them, or I can be the person that they want or they need. And you know, it's kind of like almost to the point of shoving it down their throats, or staying in a situation to say, well, I'm not going to have anyone say that I didn't try. And it's like, but this person is destructive for you, walk away, you know. So this kind of feeds into a bit into the arrogance, but also into this kind of, you know, staying within what's known, especially like even when it's wrong for them sometimes. Pride comes before a fall, they say. You know, sometimes if you're too proud, especially as a Leo, it's about accepting help. Ask for help, say that I can't do it, or that I haven't got the tools, or I haven't got the money, or I haven't got this, or, you know, admit that I can't do it. Not going to happen. When we reach out to connect for other people, we become so much greater than we already are. And Leo wants to be great. It needs to be great. It has to have that recognition for being great. And by reaching out for other people, to other people, with all of that stuff, we become greater than who we are. And then finally, always on stage. And I've put this one here and it's quite interesting because it's kind of got a dual nature. There are times where the Leo just wants to be human, one of the people. I'm having a bad day, I look like shit, I feel like shit, leave me alone. But there's this feeling of, you know, I walk into a room and everybody knows I'm there. You have a presence about you, and for that reason you will always be on stage. People will always be looking at you to see what you do, how you do it, if you succeed, if you don't succeed, and they'll always have an opinion on it. That's on that side of it. On the other side of it, well, I'm always on stage, so sometimes I might not necessarily portray who I really am or what I really feel, because I feel like I need to play a part. Transcending that is really, really important, because it will allow you to be more comfortable in your own skin than you ever have been before. So these are some of the lessons and the blessings about Leo. And as I always say, you could never fit everything about a sign in a single video on YouTube. It's just not possible. But I hope you found it fun, informative. I hope it's given you some perspective on, you know, yourself, friends, family, a crush, a relationship, all of that sort of stuff. I wish you an abundance of love, light, peace, prosperity, and abundance itself. Take care, and I'll see you for the next in the series.